Dear students, welcome to my class of physics. Today we are going to discuss about various charges present in nature, especially about the electric charges, their properties and interaction coming under the electrostatics of CHSE, CBSE, ICSE class 12 curriculum. The charges, they are already present in nature. Before going to discuss about these charges, let us see some events which are occurring in our daily life. In this picture, we see that a comb is attracting pieces of paper. In this picture, we see a lightning has occurred. So, starting from the attraction of comb and paper to a big phenomena like lightning, all are due to the electric charges present in nature. Where from these charges came? To know about the origin of charges, let me quote some lines from Bhagavad Gita. Anantarang mahasunyam sunya madhya niramayo niramaya madhya jyoti sajyoti bhagavanayo. It means, if we go to infinity, we will encounter vacuum. In that vacuum, there is a jyoti known as God. The meaning of jyoti in science, we call it as energy or prakash. When energy creates particles, it always creates in pairs of particle and antiparticle. Let us see how energy is creating a particle. Energy is represented by a photon, which is giving us a particle electron plus its antiparticle positron. Both are having mass equal to 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg and charge 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Like these particles, all other particles are also created. Thousands, millions of particles are created. And at the time of creation, nature has given some fundamental charges on these masses due to their interaction with Higgs boson, or we can say the Higgs field. There are 4 types of fundamental charges present: mass, weak charge, electric charge and color charge. It will be worth noting that all these charges present in nature cannot be created at our home or in a laboratory. They are the gift of nature to mankind, or we can say the gift of God to mankind. Let us take an example. Suppose at our birth, my mass was 2.5 kg. Now, suppose my mass is increased to 50 kg. Where from this mass came? Have we created this mass? Certainly not. I have accumulated this mass by taking a regular diet in my daily life. And what is my diet? The diet is coming from the soil. And we are eating soil every day in an edible form. So, I can mention a point here that the amount of decrease in soil of earth is equal to the amount of increase in mass in our body. So, we have not created mass, we have just mass is just converted from one form to another form. Similarly, this happens for all other fundamental charges. There are 4 types of fundamental charges I have told you. Due to these fundamental charges, we are getting stable nuclei, stable atoms, stable molecules, stable clusters and superclusters. Now, let us see these charges one by one. The four type of fundamental charges what I have told you are mass, weak nuclear charge, electric charge and Color charge. First of all, let us discuss about mass. Mass is a fundamental property. It is also known as a fundamental charge of matter. Due to mass of a body, we get gravitational force or interaction between two masses. They are mediated by gravitons. The field particles are gravitons which are massless. Therefore, gravitational force has range equal to infinity. It is the weakest among all the interactions present. The second one is weak charge. Weak charge gives weak nuclear force. It is coming out of the isotopic spin of nuclear elements. It exists inside the nucleus because it is mediated by the particles W plus, W minus and Z0 bosons which are very heavy. So, these forces are short range forces existing inside a nucleus. The third charge is my electric charge. Electric charge gives us electromagnetic force. Electromagnetic force is mediated by photons are the field particles. Again, photons are massless, so they can travel up to infinity. We get electromagnetic force range equal to infinity. And the last one is my Color charge. Color charge gives strong nuclear force. It is mediated by gluons. There are 8 types of gluons existing in 8 colors and 3 main fundamental color red, blue and green. Gluons are very much massive and therefore, the force is short range. It exists within the nucleus. So, starting from the nucleus, the nuclear stability is coming due to Color charge, atomic stability is due to the electromagnetic force which is due to my electric charge, and the equilibrium in clusters and superclusters like my solar system, my galaxy etc., they are due to the gravitational force. In this way, the fundamental forces which are already existing in nature, they are responsible for a huge equilibrium in our daily life. Now, let us discuss more about electric charges and their properties. As it is evident, we have already discussed that these fundamental charges cannot be created in laboratory. Therefore, electric charges also are there present at the time of creation of masses. There are 2 types of electric charges. Reason is, the electric charge on a body is due to an excess or deficit of electron. Excess of electron gives one type of electric charge and deficit of electron gives another type of electric charge. So, if a substance which is normally neutral is having less number of electrons than protons, then it will be positively charged. A positively charged body is lighter than the neutral one and has a greater radius. The second type is my negatively charged body. If the body has more number of electrons than proton, then the body is negatively charged, it is heavier than the neutral one and has a greater radius. Millikan derived the charge on an electron to be negative and the magnitude is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. The charge on a proton is therefore plus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Now, question arises, what is a charge, or we can say what is an electric charge? Charge is a fundamental property of matter. We can say electric charge is a derived quantity in SI system. The dimensional formula for electric charge is AT and the SI unit of electric charge is coulomb. We can define coulomb in various ways. For a beginner, let us define Coulomb like it is that amount of charge which when flows through a wire for 1 second gives 1 ampere current. The other units of charge in CGS electrostatic unit, it is known as ESU of charge or stat coulomb. In CGS electromagnetic unit, it is known as Ab coulomb. Their values are 1 coulomb is 3 into 10 to the power 9 stat coulomb, whereas 1 coulomb is 0.1 Ab coulomb. 1 stat coulomb is also known as 1 Franklin, which is the smallest unit of charge, whereas 1 Faraday 96368 coulomb, that is the charge on 1 mole of electrons, is the biggest unit of charge. But practically in our daily life, we measure charge in ampere hour. Now, how to make a body charged? We can make a body charged in 3 different processes. The first process is by friction between 2 bodies. Suppose we consider a body A and another body B. If B is slided over the other, then electrons from A or from B, may be the either way, will be transferred. As a result, the charge on A will become positive and charge on B will become negative, because B is accepting an electron. So, therefore, during friction, what happens is equal and opposite nature charge is developed on either of the bodies with exactly equal magnitude. In the beginning, we have seen the process of lightening. The lightening process is also due to the frictional charge arising on the thunder clouds. When the charge on cloud becomes greater than 30 coulomb, then the entire 16 kilometer air column becomes ionized and a discharge passes from cloud to ground. So, we get an arc and like lightning. When you rub glass rod with silk cloth, electrons from glass rod transferred to silk cloth, making glass rod positive and silk cloth negative. Similarly, when we comb our hair with a plastic comb, comb accepts an electron from hair, becomes negative, where our hair becomes positive. In our daily life, when we wear woolen cloth and sit on a plastic chair, usually charges are accumulated on our body and we are getting a shock while handshaking with others. After a long ride, when we touch the surface of our vehicle, we are getting a shock. So, all these things are due to friction, charging bodies due to friction. And the next type of production of charged bodies are by induction. We will see induction after some time. The second process in which we can produce charged bodies is known as induction. In the process of induction, we normally place a charged body near an uncharged one. Due to polarization, the charges on the charged body develops, and in some mechanism we are producing charged bodies. Now, let us see how and we are doing that mechanism in our daily life. Suppose we have a charged body having a charge plus q placed near an uncharged neutral body. So, due to the presence of this positive charge q, polarization will occur and negative charges will develop on the front face and positive charges on the rear face of the neutral body. Now, when we earth this neutral body, electrons from earth, they are collected by the body and the positive charge on the body gets neutralized. Taking the charged body as well as the grounding away, we see that the neutral body is now negatively charged. In this process, we cannot say that equal amount of charge will be developed on the body. The charge developed is given by the formula Q equal to Q0 into 1 minus 1 over K, where K is the dielectric constant. The value of K is infinity for conductors and any value between 0 and infinity for insulators or other media. Now, suppose let us take an example. Suppose we have a body having a charge of plus q. Now, I have a dielectric sphere having dielectric constant K equal to 3. Now, in the process of induction, we can say what will be the amount of charge that will be developed on the body. The charge developed Q will be equal to, or Q dash equal to Q into 1 minus 1 by 3. So, this is 2Q by 3. If Q is the inducing charge, the charge developed on the dielectric sphere will be Q dash and it is 2Q by 3, and obviously they both have different polarity. So, therefore, your Q dash will be negative and the value is, the magnitude is 2Q by 3. But if we take this sphere as a conducting sphere, suppose this is a conducting sphere, then by definition your K becomes infinity and Q dash is equal to minus Q. This situation will not occur always. Again, the maximum charge induced on a conductor, that depends on its capacity. Let us take a small example. Suppose I have a small plate and a big plate, and small plate is positively charged. Suppose it is charged with plus Q, and the big plate is earthed. Now, since this is a big plate and the capacity of big plate is more than the capacity of the small plate, therefore, the big plate can easily induce equal and opposite amount of charge on it. But the reverse is not true. If I charge a big plate with a charge plus Q and try to induce charge on a smaller plate, since the capacity of smaller plate is small, it will be unable to induce plus Q amount of charge on it. It will be something smaller. In this process, what will happen? let the maximum capacity of smaller plate to induce a charge is minus small q. Therefore, out of this plus q charge plus small q will come to this side of the plate, and the remaining charge plus q minus q will remain on this face. So, this will be the division of charge if both the conductors will have different capacity. Now, let us summarize this one. First, what we have taken, that what is the process in which charges are being developed. In induction, opposite polarity charges are developed, number one. Number two, what is the magnitude of charge developed? The magnitude of charge is given by q equal to q0 into 1 minus 1 by k. K is infinity for conductors, and therefore, equal and opposite amount of charge will be induced in case of conductors only. But still then, it depends on the size of the conductor, it depends on the capacity of the conductor to develop charges. So, this is about your process of induction in which we are preparing charged objects. Now, in the third process in which we can produce charged objects is our conduction. In the process of conduction also, we can make different objects charged. Suppose I have a charged body having charge plus q and a neutral body having no charge. Now, let us connect the two. When I connect the two, some charges will flow from this body to that body, body A to body B. In this process, what I will see? I will see that both of them are positively charged. But again, what is the amount of charge that will flow from one body to another body? Again, it depends on their capacity. If both the bodies have same capacity, then the total charge on the body will be equally divided. For example, suppose we have a sphere of radius r and we have another sphere of suppose radius 2r. As the capacity is proportional to radius, we will see later on in subsequent classes how capacity is proportional to radius r. For the time being, let us assume capacity is proportional to radius r. So, if C is the capacity of sphere A, then 2C will be the capacity of sphere B. Sphere A has charge plus q and sphere B has no charge. Now, when they touch each other and again we have separated them, then what we get? We get potential of A must be equal to potential of B. So, Q divided by C must be equal to QA by C must be equal to QB divided by 2C. So, QB equal to 2 times QA. So, 3 QA equal to Q. So, QA equal to Q by 3 and QB equal to 2Q by 3. So, in this process we actually, in the process of conduction, in this process we can calculate how the charges are being shared. In the process of conduction, both the bodies have same charge and the charges are produced by their capacity, depending on their capacity, charges are transferred depending on their capacity. In the process of induction, charges are developed of opposite polarity. Again, in insulators lesser amount of charge will be developed, in conductors more amount of charge will be developed, and in the process of friction we get equal and opposite charges are developed on both the bodies. So, let us wind up. Till now what we have done? We have discussed about various charges present in atmosphere, particularly discussed about some processes in which the charges are being developed, electrical charges are being developed on different objects. Resuming discussion on electrostatics, let us now discuss about the properties of electric charges. The first property is like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other. The second property is charge is quantized. It is obvious that if charge is developed on a body due to transfer of electron, obviously the number of electrons transferred is represented by an integer, and hence the charge is an integral multiple of electronic charge. So, whatever may be the charge developed on a body, that is always expressed by integral multiple of electronic charge, q equal to Ne, where n is an integer. Charge is conserved. Like mass and energy, charge is also conserved. If we consider an isolated system, the total charge is always constant. We cannot create charges, the charges are there present in matter. We can rearrange charges from one body to another. Therefore, they always remain constant. Charge is invariant. The meaning invariance is coming from or indicating the constancy of charge with velocity. If charge of a body does not change with its velocity, then it remains invariant, unlike mass. Charge is a scalar quantity and hence it is algebraically arrayed, and charge is transferable. It is transferred from one body to another body. Now, let us compare the two basic charges, mass on a body and electric charge on a body. If we compare the two, mass with electric charge, then the differences are mass is producing attractive force, while electric charge can produce both attractive and repulsive force. Mass alone it is not conserved, but electric charge is conserved. Similarly, mass is a variant. The variation of mass given by the relation m equal to m0 by root over of 1 minus v square by c square, where charge is invariant. Charge is quantized, where the quantum of mass is not yet defined. So, basically speaking, between mass and charge we see this type of distinctions. And let us come to the next topic. Can mass exist without charge? The answer is yes. Can charge exist without mass? The answer is no. There are 4 types of charge or charged bodies present around us. First of all is a point charge. No charge in the universe is actually a point charge. But if you compare the point of observation with the dimension of a body, the distance of observation point, if it is very large in comparison with the dimension of a body, then the charge is said to be a point charge. Any charge behaves like a point charge. A charged sphere, a charged cylinder, a charged wire, a sheet of charge, each and every charge when observed from a large distance behaves like a point charge. Now, the second type of charge distribution we are getting is a linear charge. If we give charge to a wire of suppose length L and charge given is Q, then the entire charge will be distributed uniformly along the length of the wire, and we define the charge per unit length lambda as the charge density, linear charge density, and the total charge on the body is therefore given by integration 0 to L lambda dl. Similarly, the third type of charge is a surface charge. Suppose I have a surface S on which Q amount of charge is given. So, my charge density will be sigma, it is charge per unit area, and therefore, the total charge on the body is integration over the surface sigma ds. Similarly, the fourth type of charge is a volume charge. Suppose in a volume V we gave a charge Q. The volume charge density rho is given by Q by V, and hence the total charge on the body is integration over volume rho dV. So, this is about your different type of charges we define while discussing electrostatics. Now, let us see the interaction between two charges. Before going to interaction, now let us answer some questions. Can we transfer the entire charge on a body to another? In the process of conduction, we have defined, we have shown that charges are being transferred from one body to another body when they are connected till they attain a constant potential. But in a particular process in which if a charged body Q is kept inside a hollow enclosure and they are connected by a wire, then the entire charge on that body will be transferred to the hollow enclosure. This is the one and only one process where we can transfer the entire charge of a body onto another. Now, my second question is, repulsion is a sure test of electrification. Explain. Now, while defining the attraction and repulsion between the electric charges, we see that two charges can attract each other. A charged body and a neutral body can also attract each other. But if two bodies are repelling each other, this indicates that they are definitely charged. So, therefore, we can say repulsion is a sure test of electrification. Now, my third question is, find the number of electrons to be transferred from a body to get a charge of 1 microcoulomb. To get a charge of 1 microcoulomb, suppose this is a body and I want a charge of plus 1 microcoulomb on that body. So, what I have to do? I have to take away some electrons from it. If number of electrons taken away is n, so Ne must be equal to 1 microcoulomb. So, n is equal to 1 micro is 10 to the power minus 6 divided by E is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. So, it will come somewhat like order of 10 to the power 13 number. So, if we transfer 10 to the power 13 number of electrons, then only we can develop a charge of plus 1 microcoulomb on the body. So, these are some basic questions which always comes to our mind while discussing about electric charges. Let us discuss about the interaction between the charges. Two charges interact electromagnetically by exchanging photons among themselves. We have already discussed that photon is the field particle for electromagnetic interaction. The magnitude of interaction is given by Coulomb's law. It states that the force between two charges is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Now, consider two charges Q1 and Q2 separated by a distance r. According to Coulomb, if F is the magnitude of force between the two charges, then F is proportional to Q1 Q2 and is proportional to 1 by r square. So, F is equal to a constant of proportionality K E times Q1 Q2 divided by r square. This is the magnitude of force between the two charges at a separation of r in vacuum. The value of K E is equal to 1 in CGS system and it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 in SI system. The value of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square, where epsilon naught stands for the permittivity of vacuum. The value of permittivity is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. There are different type of definitions of permittivity. Permittivity, one can say, is the permission capability of a medium to allow electric field through itself. We can say it is the ability of a medium to store electric potential energy. We can say it is the degree of polarizability of a dielectric medium. In this way, we can define the permittivity of a medium. Now, if epsilon 0 is standing for the permittivity of vacuum, then let epsilon is the permittivity of any medium. We define the relative permittivity epsilon r as permittivity of a medium divided by the permittivity of vacuum. So, therefore, your permittivity of medium becomes equal to permittivity of vacuum into permittivity of relative permittivity, or we can write epsilon equal to epsilon 0 into K, where K and epsilon r both stands for the same quantity, the relative permittivity or the dielectric constant of a medium. The value of dielectric constant differ from media to media. So, therefore, the Coulomb's law, the force between two charges in vacuum, it becomes 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by r square. Since force is a vector quantity and it is always directed along the line joining the two charges, therefore, I can write force equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by r square into r cap. This is the vector form of the force between two charges in vacuum. Now, the same force, if calculated between the two charges at same separation, but inside a medium. the force will become 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon Q1 Q2 by r square into r cap, where epsilon stands for the permittivity of the medium. This implies force between two charges in a medium is equal to force between the same charges in vacuum divided by dielectric constant of the medium, because your epsilon is epsilon naught into k. By substituting the value of epsilon as epsilon naught into k, we can find out the force between two charges in a medium is equal to force in vacuum divided by dielectric constant in the medium. If we take an example, let us take a very small example. Suppose there are two charges in air, Q1 and Q2, they are experiencing a force of suppose 80 Newton, F equal to 80 Newton. If the entire system is now dipped inside a bucket having water with dielectric constant equal to 80, the dielectric constant of water is 80, then the force will be reduced to, by the formula Fv divided by k, it is 80 Newton divided by 80, this will be 1 Newton. So, the same charges inside water at same separation will give a force of 1 Newton among themselves. To find the vector form of Coulomb's law, let us take one of the charge at origin. If I take one of the charge at origin, suppose my Q1 is at origin and this is my Q2, and I define F12 as force on 1 due to 2, F21 is force on 2 due to 1. So, this is my force 2-1 and this will be my force 1-2, and this is R. R12, it is R21, the magnitude are same, this is equal to R. So, F12 will be equal to how much? It is Ke Q1 Q2 divided by R12 cap, and F21 will be Ke Q1 Q2 divided by R21 mod square R21 cap. Since R12 cap is minus of R21 cap, hence we get F21 is minus of F12. So, the action and reaction forces are equal and opposite. The Coulomb forces, they act equally and in opposite direction to the charges on the charges involved. If the origin is not on any one of the charges, if my origin is shifted to some other place, then how to calculate the Coulomb force? Suppose this is my charge number 1 and this is my charge number 2. This is the position vector of charge number 1, this is R1, position vector of charge number 2 is R2, and this will be R2 minus R1, this is R21. So, therefore, my F21 will be equal to K Q1 Q2 divided by R2 minus R1 mod square into the unit vector, mod q into the vector R2 minus R1. Similarly, I can write F12 is Ke Q1 Q2 divided by R1 minus R2 mod q R1 minus R2. So, in this way vectorially we can represent the Coulomb's law between two charges. Now, if there are suppose large number of charges, then the net force on a charge is calculated by using the superposition principle. The superposition principle is telling us that the force between two charges is independent of the presence of other charges present nearby them, and the net force on a charge is calculated by the geometric addition of all the individual forces due to the charges present around. Suppose we have a charge q0 and there are a large number of charges present q1 up to qn, are distances r1, r2 up to rn. The force on q0 F q0 will be equal to force F 01 plus force F 02 plus up to force F 0n, means the force on q0 due to q1, force on q0 due to q2 and force on q0 due to qn. So, all the forces are individually calculated and then we take a geometric sum to find out the force acting on the charge q0. Let us take some examples. So, my first example is find the force between the nucleus and electron of hydrogen atom. Suppose this is my hydrogen atom, we know the nucleus of hydrogen atom is having a charge of plus E and electron is having a charge of minus E. So, my force will be F equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 is E square divided by R square. R for hydrogen is 0.53 angstrom, or we can say 0.53 into 10 to the power minus 10 meter. The value of E is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. This force will be negative. Why negative? Because one charge is plus E and the other charge is minus E. The negative force indicates the force is attractive, nothing else. So, the magnitude of force will be given by F equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 E square by R square. Put the value of R equal to this much and E equal to this much, you will get your result. Let us take a second example. The force between two charges in vacuum is 80 Newton and the force inside water we have already calculated it to be 1 Newton. There are 4 equal charges, each of q are present at the corners of a square. What is the force acting on any one of them? Suppose here is a square having charges q, q, q and q. So, to calculate the force on any one of the charge, we have, if this is A into root 2. So, obviously, if this is F, if this is F, this will be F by 2. So, the net force F will be equal to, it is root 2 F plus F by 2, where it is root 2 plus half and F is, you know, it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q square by A square. So, this is your answer. And the next question is, suppose we have a large number of charges at x equal to 0, x equal to 1, x equal to 2, x equal to 4 and so on. So, to calculate the force on charge at x equal to 0, all charges are q each. Then the force will be equal to F equal to how much? The sum of all the forces. It is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q square into 1 divided by 1 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 16 plus dot dot dot. This is a geometric progression having r equal to 1 by 4 and a equal to 1. Now, this can be summed over by using the formula So, my f will be equal to q square by 4 pi epsilon 0, and this is 1 into 1 minus 1 by 4 to the power infinity divided by 1 minus 1 by 4. So, it is 4 by 3 q square by 4 pi epsilon naught. Now, putting the value of q, we can find out the force on the charge at x equal to 0. So, now let us recap over the entire discussion. We have discussed about the types of fundamental charges. They are 4 types, there should not be any mistake. The electric charges and their properties. There are 2 types of electric charges and various properties like quantization, conservation, invariance, etc. And then we have discussed about Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law in vector form, Coulomb's law in a medium, dielectrics, value of epsilon and relative permittivity. And we have solved some applications of Coulomb's law. And these applications of Coulomb's law, there are so many applications of Coulomb's law you will find in your textbook, go through all the numericals, solve it, and I assure you that by knowing all these fundamentals what we have discussed in today's class, you will be able to solve the numericals. Thank you.